Consciousness doesn't make any sense. Sights, sounds, smells, textures, the warmth of love, the sting of sadness, the coldness of heartbreak. Why do we experience any of it? We've mapped out the entire observable universe, measured every single neuron in our brains, and we've even trained machines to think, speak, and act just like us. And still, we don't understand the most fundamental thing about human existence. Why does it feel like anything to be you? Why is there a little person inside of your head? And a story of your life that exists through time. Although it's something that every single person who has ever existed has experienced, consciousness is one of the most difficult things to explain or understand. Philosophers, mystics, scientists, and religious leaders have all come to the same uncomfortable conclusion. Consciousness isn't as straightforward as it appears. It unfolds in levels, and the deeper you go, the stranger it gets. So let's dive in. Level 1, deep sleep. It's the most ordinary, yet the most mysterious state of consciousness. We enter it every night without thinking, slipping past the edge of thought into a void, so empty that even the concept of it being a void disappears. The entire world dissolves, the self vanishes, and even dreams don't exist at this level. All there is a silent stillness that's vast and impenetrable. Although we experience this every night, it still exists beyond the realm of our understanding. Just like you can't understand what it's like to be blind by closing your eyes, you can't understand what deep sleep feels like by taking a nap. All we do know is that one moment you're awake, fully aware of your surroundings, and the next moment you're awake and fully aware of your surroundings. But for a few hours in between, you are nowhere, completely oblivious to your surroundings. According to neuroscience, you're in what's called the delta wave state. It's a deep, slow rhythm that's pulsing through your brain at less than 4 cycles per second. It's the body's most restorative mode, where the nervous system resets, tissues heal, and your memory consolidates. This state is a necessary maintenance cycle when the mind is turned off so that the body can heal itself. But on the inside, something far stranger is happening. In this state, experience itself ceases to exist. There is no space, no time, and no you. It's as if awareness folds back into its source, the way an ocean wave returns to the sea and forgets that it ever rose, that it was ever a wave. Philosophers describe it as a kind of temporary annihilation, one without suffering or fear. It's like death being shy. You don't know that you're gone, and yet you awaken, and you somehow know that you were. That paradox, to be without being aware of being, has haunted even the greatest thinkers for centuries. In the Mandukya Upanishad, it's called Sushupti, a state where the self rests in its unmanifest form. Buddhists regard it as a glimpse of nirvana without enlightenment, while modern philosophers see it as the ground zero of consciousness, the point at which the line between awareness and non-awareness blurs. And yet, even here, the seed of consciousness exists. Something knows that nothing is happening, otherwise you would wake up each morning and you would be completely confused as to what had just happened. So it seems that even at this bottom layer, awareness is still there. It only withdraws, watching quietly from behind the curtain. In that sense, deep sleep is both an ending and a new beginning. It is the nightly death of self and the daily resurrection of consciousness. Each time you wake up, you're reborn from that void, carried upward through the layers of mind that rebuild your world anew. The dreamer reassembles, the senses reopen, and the illusion of continuity resumes. But for a few hours each night, you cease to exist. And that, perhaps, is the purest form of peace the mind may ever know, at least on this plane of existence. Beyond that layer of emptiness, there is creativity beyond human comprehension. Level 2. Dreaming. Fragments of thought begin to move. Images shimmer into existence, and without opening your eyes, you find yourself somewhere else entirely. This is dreaming, the first world consciousness creates for itself. In this realm, reality is all self-generated. The senses have shut down, and the body lies motionless. Yet, within the theater of the brain, entire universes are created. Mountains rise and vanish. Faces from memory blend with strangers whom you've never seen before. You experience an entire lifetime in a few minutes. One moment, you're flying through an endless sky, and the next, you're trapped in a room without any doors or windows. And the strangest thing of all is that it all feels real, or at least as real as your everyday waking life. From the scientific perspective, dreaming starts after deep sleep and during REM sleep, the phase of sleep in mammals that comes with rapid eye movements and more brain activity, which leads to more dreams. Your mind is flooded with emotions, imagination, and different narratives. Your body, for the most part, is still stuck in an unconscious state, but the mind is now free to wander, to explore the world it creates for itself without any boundaries. Philosophically, the dream acts as a mirror, a miniature version of existence itself. In Hindu philosophy, this is swapna, the inner world that reflects and distorts waking reality. The Greeks saw dreams as messages from the gods. Freud saw them as windows into the unconscious. Modern neuroscience calls them memory alchemy, where the brain mixes fragments of the day into symbolic narratives. Yet, none of these explanations capture the uncanny truth. When you dream, you are both the creator and the inhabitant of your world. Inside a dream, you are the laws of physics, the architecture of space, and the author of time. Every voice you hear is your own mind speaking back to you. Every face is carved from your memories. The dreamer and the dream are one and the same. You build a world, forget that you built it, and then wander through it as a character. But just like waking life, dreams carry emotion, consequence, and even transformation. A nightmare can make your heart race. A lucid dream can make you feel like a superhero. A positive vision can give you peace that lasts for years. For something not real, dreams leave remarkably real footprints. They reveal the creative nature of consciousness and a scary thought that reality, even our waking reality, may just be another dream. And perhaps that's their deeper lesson. Every night, as your mind weaves impossible worlds and convinces itself that they're true, it rehearses the same act it performs during the day, constructing experience from within. The only difference is that in dreams, you sometimes remember that you're the only one imagining it at all. Level 3. Waking. As you wake, you notice the red marks on your face, proof that you maybe enjoyed this sleep a little too much. Your eyes squint, struggling to adjust to the orange rays of the yellow morning sun spilling through the window. Outside, the green grass smiles as it's kissed by the morning dew, beneath a bright blue sky where shades of indigo fade softly into violet on the horizon. The last remnants of dusk from the night are gone. You are now fully awake, and your consciousness opens to the complete spectrum of experience. Not just colors, but also sounds, scents, sensations, and emotions. The orchestra of awareness that gives our world a shared meaning. This is waking consciousness, the state we spend most of our lives in, where thought, perception, and action blend into the grand illusion of solidity. Here, the mind and the senses form a partnership, producing what we call reality. You feel the weight of your body, the texture of air against your skin, the rhythm of passing time. The brain processes billions of signals each second, sorting chaos into order, randomness into patterns. Every sound, color, and shape is translated into electrical signals that are then interpreted as a three-dimensional hallucination that's just consistent enough to work. Neuroscience calls it the default mode network, the mental system that constructs the ongoing narrative of me and you, the observer at the center of the universe. But the longer you stare at waking life, the more fragile it begins to look. Sensory illusions tell us that we can't even trust our own senses. And even when there are no illusions, our limited senses compared to other living things tell us that we are not experiencing true reality, only the version of it that we can observe. Some cold-blooded animals can see infrared lights. Bats and whales have echolocation. And animals like cows, deer, and butterflies can even detect and use the Earth's magnetic field. Even within humans, some people have synesthesia and can see shapes and colors when they hear music. They are experiencing the world in a completely different way than all of us will ever be able to. So, if that's the case, how can we say for certainty what the real reality is? Time stretches or shrinks depending on attention. The mind edits and fills gaps, erases details, and fabricates continuity out of fragments of our experiences. You never see the world as it is, only as your nervous system allows. The brain isn't recording reality, it's rendering it, like a simulation running in real time. Philosophers have wrestled with this for centuries. Descartes wondered how we could ever be sure that we aren't dreaming right now. Kant argued that the world we perceive is not the thing in itself, but merely a mental model filtered through structures of cognition. Modern thinkers like Donald Hoffman describe perception as a user interface, an evolutionary design meant for survival, not to express truth. In other words, your senses don't reveal reality. They hide it behind icons that are useful enough to keep you alive. And yet, despite all of this uncertainty, waking life feels different from a dream. There's resistance here, gravity, consequence, the shared agreement of others who see the same sky as you do. This is what we call consensus reality, a communal hallucination maintained through collective trust. When you wake up, you don't just enter a world, you enter a shared simulation, one reinforced by language, memory, and the stability of physical laws. But even this stability is conditional. The world we wake up into is built from patterns of experience, and experience is built from the mind. Every morning, consciousness reassembles itself, telling a story of what it calls today, forgetting that yesterday's story was equally invented. Waking life is not the opposite of dreaming. It's simply the most persistent dream, one vivid enough to convince you and everyone around you that it's real. For most people, this is where consciousness stops. We spend our lives cycling through these three familiar states, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, calling that cycle the totality of experience. The mind rarely pauses long enough to notice that something constant exists beneath all of them. We wake, we sleep, we dream, and we assume that's all awareness is, and what it's meant to do. But there are deeper layers still. Hidden states that reveal themselves only when the surface of the mind stands completely still. When thought quiets and attention turns inward, a new dimension of consciousness begins to open. Beyond the noise of perception and the theater of thought lies something entirely different. Awareness itself, pure and silent, untouched by the world around it. Level 4, Transcendental Consciousness. Beyond the turbulence of waking, dreaming, and sleep, there lies another state, one that doesn't fit neatly into the usual map of the mind. It's not unconsciousness, not imagination, not ordinary awareness. It is transcendental consciousness. It's a pure and silent awareness that is aware of itself. Here the mind is awake, but utterly still. Thoughts slow down drastically and then vanish. The body remains, the senses remain, but attention has turned inward, resting on the source of awareness itself. It's a state that meditators across cultures have described for millennia, the experience of being without doing, of awareness detached from the machinery of thought. In this state, consciousness is no longer directed at anything, it simply is. From a scientific view, something remarkable is happening. Normally, the brain's left and right hemispheres are somewhat asynchronous. Different regions fire independently and chaotically, especially when the mind is active or distracted. But EEG readings of advanced meditators show something different. The electric signals across both hemispheres of their brains start to synchronize. Their waveforms line up almost like musical instruments playing the same frequency. As the inner mind stills, so does the brain, and its usual chaos is replaced by harmony and stillness. Philosophically, transcendental consciousness is the first glimpse of the self beyond the self. The Upanishads describe it as Turiya, the fourth state, beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Buddhists call it emptiness, not because it lacks content, but because it lacks boundaries. Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." But in this state, even thinking dissolves, and yet, I am remains. There is a profound simplicity to this awareness. It doesn't judge, interpret, or analyze. It just observes. For a few moments, the endless stream of thought that defines waking life goes quiet, and the observer realizes that they were never the thoughts at all, but the space in which those thoughts appear. Many describe the experience as a feeling of returning home. Only home is not a place, but a condition of being that feels more familiar than anything else. It's as if the mind has spent its whole life facing outward, looking for meaning in the world, only to turn around and find that what it sought was the one who was looking. In transcendental consciousness, awareness becomes self-luminous. The observer and the observed merge into a single existence. It's not an escape from the world, but the discovery of what remains when the world disappears, a consciousness untouched by thought, time, or form. At this point, consciousness begins to step beyond what science can comfortably describe. The instruments still record patterns, the brain still hums with coherence, but something about the experience slips through the cracks of measurement. Logic, which once seemed sturdy, starts to tremble. This is where philosophy takes over, where awareness begins to question its own nature and language itself starts to blur. If the mind can be aware without thought, what exactly is doing the knowing? Oh, what is the I that remains when the story of me falls silent? These aren't questions for neuroscience anymore. They're riddles of existence itself. Level 5, Cosmic Consciousness. Eventually, something extraordinary happens. The silence of transcendental awareness stops fading when you open your eyes. The stillness remains even as you move through the world. This is cosmic consciousness, the moment when inner and outer awareness coexist, when the witness behind experience no longer disappears when the experience unfolds. Here, consciousness no longer flickers between opposites. You can think, speak, act, and feel, yet somewhere beneath the surface, a deep, unmoving stillness hums, untouched by any of it. There's joy and sorrow, gain and loss, but all of it happens within a larger, unbroken awareness that simply observes it all. Life continues as before, but your relationship with it is no longer the same. You are no longer fully in the story. You're watching the story from a distance and, at the same time, living it up close. Science might describe this as continuous meta-awareness, a sustained activation of the brain's frontal monitoring system that tracks internal and external experience simultaneously. Heart rate and brainwave patterns show a balance rarely seen, coherence between the body's alertness and the mind's serenity. Yet what the instruments can't measure is the feeling itself, the quiet astonishment of being awake within the waking. Philosophically, this is the state where self-knowledge becomes direct. The Upanishads describe it as the realization of Atman, the inner self, distinct from the ever-changing play of thoughts and sensations. You begin to see that the body, emotions, and personality are not you, but are expressions of something larger. The witnessing awareness that once was a fleeting meditative glimpse becomes a permanent backdrop. You don't lose your individuality, you just stop mistaking it for the whole truth. The world still moves, but you are no longer swept away by it. The emotions that once consumed you become waves rippling across the surface of an ocean. Suffering still arises, but so does unshakable calm. The recognition that even pain is a movement within consciousness, not outside of it. You become both the participant and the spectator, both the actor and the stage. This is what many mystics call the witness state, the dawning of enlightenment, the first steady awakening. It's not otherworldly or distant, it's ordinary life, but experienced from a higher vantage point. You still walk and talk and breathe, but now you do so while simultaneously resting in the infinite. In cosmic consciousness, the self and the universe begin to mirror each other. You start to sense that the awareness within you and the intelligence that animates the cosmos might be the same thing, two expressions of a single universal mind. The individual soul and the cosmic soul are not separate entities, but reflections meeting in still water. And once you see that, the line between inner and outer reality begins to dissolve. Level 6. God consciousness. At some point, awareness begins to shift again. The silent witness that once observed the world from a distance now starts to feel intimately connected to it, as if that same stillness is pulsing through everything you see. This is God consciousness, a state where perception itself becomes sacred, and every aspect of the universe radiates with living intelligence. In this state, consciousness doesn't just witness the world, it feels it. The tree outside your window no longer seems like an object. It breathes, it vibrates, it glows with quiet divinity. The line between the perceiver and the perceived softens, replaced by a sense of reverence that permeates every existence. The same awareness that once sat silently within now begins to overflow, touching everything it counters with love. Neuroscientifically, this shift can be glimpsed in patterns of highly synchronized gamma activity, often observed in advanced meditators experiencing profound compassion or awe. Emotional and sensory centers of the brain begin to merge, producing a kind of refined perception, reality felt not just through the senses but through the heart. But science can only describe the mechanics, it can't capture the meaning. What actually happens is that consciousness expands from neutrality into devotion, from witnessing the universe to falling in love with it. Philosophically, God consciousness has appeared in nearly every spiritual tradition. In the Vedic texts, it's described as the blossoming of Sat Chit Ananda, being, consciousness, and bliss, the triad of divine experience. Christian mystics call it theosis, union with God through love. Sufis sang of it as ishq-i hachichi, the divine passion that burns away separation. Each points to the same realization. The universe is not a cold mechanism, but a living expression of consciousness, and that consciousness is inherently good, intelligent, and beautiful. In this state, love ceases to be an emotion and becomes a perception, a way of seeing. You don't feel love for the world, you see through love. Every sound, color, and form feels imbued with the same sacred essence that animates you. Compassion becomes effortless, because everything around you feels like an extension of your own being. Even pain and decay begin to shimmer with hidden purpose. God consciousness transforms the intellect into reverence. The mind no longer seeks to control or analyze reality, it bows before it. Every atom becomes a hymn, every breath a prayer. The divine is not something else, not above or beyond, it is here, unfolding through every heartbeat, every sunrise, every ordinary moment that you once overlooked. In the previous level, you realize that you are a consciousness watching the universe. In this one, you realize that consciousness itself is divine, and so is everything it creates. The world becomes a cathedral of awareness, and you, a witness in awe of its infinity. Level 7. Unity consciousness. At the last level lies a state where even the witness disappears. The boundary between observer and observed, between self and world, subject and object, disappears completely. This is unity consciousness, the highest expression of awareness, where the universe knows itself through you, and you know yourself as the universe. Here all distinctions fall away. Inside and outside, mind and matter, life and death, all of it merges into a single, seamless field of being. It's not that you perceive unity, rather you are unity. The infinite doesn't feel distant anymore. It's the very substance of your own awareness. There's no longer a self looking out at the world. There's only consciousness, infinite and self-luminous, flowing through every form and thought like light through glass. From a scientific standpoint, unity consciousness pushes the limit of what we can even measure. Some neuroscientists speak of non-dual awareness, a brain state characterized by synchronized coherence across regions, where self-referential processing all but disappears. But this is only the shadow of something that can't truly be quantified, because the experience of unity is not in the brain at all. It's the field in which the brain, the world, and all of existence arise together. Philosophically, this state has been described in countless ways. In Vedanta, it is the realization of Brahman, the one without a second, pure being, consciousness, bliss. In Mahayana Buddhism, it's sunyata, the emptiness that is full, where form and void are one and the same. Mystics of every tradition have spoken of it in paradoxes. The drop that becomes the ocean and yet remains a drop. The flame that recognizes itself in every other flame. In unity consciousness, the sense of time dissolves. The future and past collapse into an eternal present, a boundless now that contains all moments at once. The mind, once so desperate to grasp and define, falls silent. What remains is not thought, not feeling, not perception, but pure existence, radiant and complete. Every moment, every breath, every heartbeat is seen as the motion of the universe itself. There is no longer a personal God or an external divinity to perceive, because there's nothing outside. The cosmos itself is sacred, the divine dreaming itself into galaxies, into atoms, and into you. The love that began in God consciousness now expands beyond any object, becoming the very nature of awareness. It is love without direction, joy without cause, being without end. And from this vantage point, you see that consciousness never climbed anywhere. It was always whole, always infinite. The latter was only a way for the mind to understand what the self already knew. The deep sleep, the dreams, the waking, the silence, the witness, the love, all were movements within the same infinite ocean of being. At this final level, the search ends because the seeker has dissolved into what was being sought all along. There is only one reality, one consciousness, one existence, and it has always been you. From dreamless sleep to cosmic unity, the levels of consciousness go deeper into itself. Each level feels like an ascent, but what if it's really a circle, a return to the source that was never left? We begin in darkness, unaware of awareness, and end in light, realizing that even the darkness was made of it. Science traces these states through waves and frequencies, mapping consciousness in electrical patterns. Philosophy traces them through language and metaphor, through the fragile bridge of meaning. Yet both of them point towards the same unspoken mystery, that consciousness is not something we have, it's what we are. The body changes, the thoughts change, the dreams shift, but the awareness behind them remains untouched, eternal and self-luminous. Maybe consciousness doesn't emerge from the brain like smoke from fire. Maybe the brain is the instrument and consciousness is the musician. Maybe what we call I is not a separate spark, but the whole fire reflected in a single flame. Across the 7 levels, awareness moves from unknowing to knowing, from separation to unity, from silence to song. In deep sleep, it rests as potential. In dreams, it imagines. In waking, it creates. In transcendence, it remembers itself. In cosmic awareness, it witnesses. In divine love, it celebrates. And in unity, it returns home, only to realize it never truly left. Perhaps consciousness isn't climbing towards some final state, but unfolding infinitely, like a mirror reflecting itself forever. The mystics called it the play of God, Lila, the universe experiencing its own reflection through every possible form. Every eye that opens, every mind that awakens, every life that begins and ends. All of it, consciousness exploring itself. So, maybe there aren't 7 levels at all. Maybe there is only one, appearing as many, dreaming as us. And maybe the ultimate truth of consciousness isn't that it's hidden somewhere waiting to be found. Maybe it's that it's been looking through our eyes the whole entire time.